Hey everyone, welcome. We're going to catch up a bit on our study of Christmas Carol. We are in Stave 2, continuing on. This is the first of the three spirits. We're being visited by Ghost of Christmas Past. And so this stave I've divided up in three parts. This is the middle section. Probably one of the favorite parts of my book. We get to go on the exploration of Scrooge's past, particularly my favorite scene, one of my favorite characters, Fezziwig. We get to see Fezziwig's party. In fact, one of my favorite seasonal beers right there, Old Fezziwig by Sam Adams. And while we do this one, we're actually going to enjoy one of my favorite drinks this time of the year, a little Jameson Irish whiskey. I don't know how we'll put this up. Number one, gotta finish the darn thing. I'm a whiskey sipper. I don't drink it fast, so anyway, one of my favorite whiskeys of all of them. Good old Jameson. Seems like a good way, a good drink for Fezziwig's party. So perfect, so smooth. All right, so let's start this off, this middle part of the second stave. So the ghost shows us these scenes from Scrooge's past and how his mistreatment as a kid has had effects on him later in life. And one of these scenes is he's sitting by himself at the school, and he's left there over the holidays instead of coming back home to enjoy Christmas time with his family. It's pointed out, it said, "The school is not quite deserted," said the ghost. "A solitary child neglected by his friends is left there still." Scrooge said he knew it, and he sobbed. Scrooge is that solitary child neglected by his friends who's left there still, in both the past and the present, an indictment on how our unkindness can poison the lives of others through them, infecting still more, as it had throughout the life of Scrooge. The lonely boy, while being Scrooge in the story, is also a reflection of Dickens himself, because as a child, Dickens was often sick and unable to play with the other boys, and he spent his time alone, immersed in books and reading. So throughout the book, you also see many times where Dickens inserts himself into the characters. Sometimes, often, in the case of Fred, that's said to be Dickens himself, according to his friends, as we studied earlier on. Moving on here. Then, with a rapidity of transition very foreign to his usual character, he said in pity for his former self, "Poor boy," and cried again. "I wish," Scrooge muttered, putting his hands in his pocket and looking about him after drying his eyes with his cuff. "But it's too late now." "What is the matter?" asked the spirit. "Nothing," said Scrooge, "nothing. There was a boy singing a Christmas carol at my door last night. I should like to have given him something, that's all." The ghost smiled thoughtfully and waved its hand, saying as it did so, "Let us see another Christmas." So Scrooge here feels his first pang of regret for his selfishness. We must experience regret before we can experience repentance. And so you're starting to see Scrooge crack a little bit. One of the first signs of his regret there. "Yes," said the child, brimful of glee. "Home for good and all. Home forever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be. And that home's like heaven. He spoke so gently to me one dear night when I was going to bed. And I was not afraid to ask him once more if you might come home. And he said, yes, you should, and sent me in a coach to bring you. And you're to be a man," said the child, opening her eyes, "and are never to come back here. But first, we're to be together all Christmas long and have the merriest time in all the world. You're quite little woman, Fran, exclaimed the boy. And so here we see somehow a change in Scrooge's father, and actually, in this instance of Christmas, once his son Ebenezer had come home, and we see just the delightfulness of his little sister Fran, of course, is the mother of Fred. We see how her good nature is passed down to him. Also pointed out in the side notes here, if heaven is like their home, it is little wonder that Scrooge left the faith. After all, they almost didn't let him come home for Christmas. A small reminder for those who claim to maintain Christian homes to always be mindful of how they treat the ones who live there and those who leave there. Always a delicate creature, whom a breath might have withered, said the ghost. But she had a large heart. So she had, said Scrooge. You're right. I will not gainsay a spirit, God forbid. She died a woman, said the ghost, and had, as I think, children. One child, Scrooge returned. True, said the ghost, your nephew. Scrooge seemed uneasy in his mind, and answered briefly, yes. Although they had but that moment left in the school behind them, they were now in the busy thoroughfares of a city, where shadowy passengers passed and repassed, where shadowy carts and coaches battled for the way, and all the strife and tumult of a real city were made plain enough by the dressing of the shops, that here too it was Christmas time again, but it was evening, and the streets were lighted up. The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door, and asked Scrooge if he knew it. Know it, said Scrooge. Was I apprenticed here? So here we see Scrooge uneasy because while he loved his sister, he has not loved his nephew. And he's seeing that contrast here before him. Okay, so now we are to Fezziwig's shop. So this is a delightful part of the story, one of my favorite parts, and this will take us through the conclusion of this episode where we study the middle part here. So I'm just going to read you a part of it here. Old Fezziwig laid down his pen and looked up at the clock, which pointed to the hour of 7. He rubbed his hands, adjusted his capacious waistcoat, laughed all over himself, from his shoes to his organ of benevolence, and called out in a comfortable, oily, rich, fat, jovial voice, Yo-ho there, Ebenezer. Yo-ho, Dick. Scrooge's former self, now grown a young man, came briskly in, accompanied by his fellow apprentice. Dick Wilkins, to be sure, said Scrooge to the ghost. Bless me, yes, there he is. He was very much attached to me, was Dick. Poor Dick. Dear, dear. Yo-ho, my boy, said Fezziwig. No more work tonight. Christmas Eve, Dick. Christmas, Ebenezer. Let's have the shutters up, cried old Fezziwig, with a sharp clap of his hands, before a man could say, Jack Robinson. You wouldn't believe how those two fellows went at it. They charged into the street with the shutters, 1, 2, 3, had 'em up in their places, 4, 5, 6, barred 'em and pinned 'em, 7, 8, 9, and came back before you could have gotten to 12, panting like racehorses. Hilly-ho, cried old Fezziwig, skipping down from the high desk with wonderful agility. Clear away, my lads, and let's have lots of room here. Hilly-ho, Dick. Cheery up, Ebenezer. Clear away. There was nothing they wouldn't have cleared away, or wouldn't have cleared away with old Fezziwig looking on. It was done in a minute. Every movable was packed off, as it were dismissed from public life for evermore. The floor was swept and watered, the lamps were trimmed, fuel was heaped upon the fire, and the warehouse was as snug and warm and dry and bright as a ballroom, as you could desire to see upon a winter's night. Then in came the fiddler with a music book, and went up to the lofty desk and made an orchestra of it, and turned like 50 stomach aches. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast, substantial smile. In came the 3 Miss Fezziwigs, beaming and lovable. In came 6 young followers whose hearts they broke. In came all the young men and women employed in the business. In came the housemaid with her cousin, the baker. In came the cook with her brother's particular friend, the milkman. In came the boy from overway, who was suspected of not having board enough from his master, tying hide to himself behind the girl from next door but one, who was proved to have had her ears pulled by her mistress. In all they came, one after another, some shyly, some boldly, some gracefully, some awkwardly, some pushing, some pulling. In they all came, anyhow and everyhow. Away they all went, 20 couple at once, hands half round and back again the other way, down the middle and up again, round and round in various stages, affectionate grouping. Old top couple always turning up the wrong place, new top couples starting off again as soon as they got there, all top couples at last, and not a bottom one to help them. When this result was brought about, old Fezziwig, clapping his hands to stop the dance, cried out, "Well done!" And the fiddler plunged his hot face into a pot of porter, especially provided for that purpose. But, scorning rest upon his reappearance, he instantly began again, though there were no dancers yet, as if the other fiddler had been carried home exhausted on a shutter, and he were a brand new man resolved to beat him out of sight or perish. The description here of the guests of various backgrounds and classes of society brings to mind Jesus' words of advice to his host in Luke 14. He advised him not just to invite his friends and family and wealthy neighbors to his banquets, but instead to invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of righteousness. Again, out of Luke 14, verses 12 through 14. Carrying on here. There were more dances, and there were forfeits, more dances, and then there was cake, and then there was negus, and a great piece of cold roast, and then there was a great piece of cold boiled, and there were mince pies, and plenty of beer. But the great effect of that evening came after the roast and boiled, when the fiddler, an artful dog, mind, a sort of man who knew his business better than you or I could have told him, struck up Sir Roger de Coverley. Then old Fezziwig stood out to dance with Miss Fezziwig. Top couple too, with a good stiff piece of work cut out for them. 3 or 4, 20 pair of partners, people who were not to be trifled with, people who would dance and no notion of walking. But if they would be twice as many as 4 times, old Fezziwig would have been a match for them, and so would have Mrs. Fezziwig. As to her, she was worthy to be a partner in every sense of the term. If that's not high praise, tell me higher, and I'll use it. A positive light appeared to issue from Fezziwig's calves. They shone in every part of the dance like moons. You couldn't have predicted at any given time that would have become of them next. And when old Fezziwig and Mrs. Fezziwig had gone all through the dance, advance and retire, hold hands with your partner, bow, curtsy, corkscrew, thread the needle, and back again to your place. Fezziwig cut so deftly that he appeared to wink with his legs, and came upon his feet again without a stagger. When the clock struck 11, this domestic ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took their stations, one on either side of the door, shaking hands with every person individually as he or she went and wished him or her a Merry Christmas. When everybody had retired, but the 2 apprentices, they did the same to them, and thus the cheerful voices died away, and the lads were left to their beds, which were under a counter in the back shop. And so that finishes up the scene there. I just love that, and it it really gets to the Christmas spirit of Christmas parties, enjoying time with one another. So we will come back to finish off Stave 2 and also get into a discussion part of this next time when I get to this. So hopefully you're enjoying it. Keep following along. This is a joy to do. Little bit of work to go through it, prepare it, and figure out what I'm going to talk about, and do the actual video and share it, and find the time to do it this crazy time of the year for me. But anyway, again, just a joy to get immersed in this wonderful tale and explore it in detail with all the symbolism and the hidden stuff that's been lost over time. I hope you're enjoying it. All right, everyone, thanks for following along. Join me some more Jameson here, and meet back here next time.